Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I have some people trickling in, but that's okay. So welcome to Platform Analytics Academy. My name is Thomas Davis. Thank you for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. Glad that you're able to join today. So let's get through some logistical information, then we'll get right into a great presentation we have on tap for you today. So as usual, this is for you. We try as hard as we can to bring fresh ideas, better understanding, and some practical guidance to things that you do around performance analytics reporting and other things inside of the platform. This session is being recorded. It will be out on the community event later on today and also out on our YouTube channel. If recording is an issue with your organization, you can go ahead and drop now. We will have Q&A at the end as well as during. If there are questions that come in during the presentation that are relevant to what's being gone over, we may stop and actually ask that question. If not, we'll wait to the end and we'll answer all the questions that are pertaining to the presentation of today first, and then get to any other open questions that are out there. Please use the Q&A rather than the chat if you can, so we can make sure that we're monitoring that. There are other panelists on, along with the presenter and myself. Again, I am Thomas Davis, and today we have Dan Grady, who's going to be presenting getting the why behind the KPI with in-platform process mining. Going to be a really good presentation. And of course, we have Dan on, who is a panelist, and also Adam. I think Adam is here as well. So he is around, and forgive me, Adam, for not putting you out there. And like I said, today, this is what we're going to talk about. And with that, Dan, if you're ready to go, we'll give you as much time as possible to do your thing.
All right. Thanks, Thomas. I am ready to go. So I'm just going to take control of the screen here, right?
Yep.
Perfect. And I'll bring up my slide deck here. And here we go. Perfect. So just a quick introduction for those of you that I've not met before. My name is Dan Grady. I'm now an outbound product manager focused on our in-platform process mining solution called Process Optimization. But I have a sense I may have interacted with a few of you over the years because 5 years prior to taking this role, I was part of the Now Intelligence Solution Consulting team, helping our customers understand all the different AI, machine learning, and analytics capabilities that exist on the platform. What we're going to run through today is just a quick why and what of process optimization on the platform. Then we'll talk a little bit about the process for optimizing a workflow. There's a set of stages that you tend to work through when you're looking to improve a given workflow on the platform. So we'll look at that and kind of how different aspects of the platform play a role in each of those individual phases. Then we'll jump over to a demonstration, and then I'll leave you with a bunch of resources that we have available for you when it pertains to this topic of process optimization. I always like to start sessions like this with a quote, and I think this one not only aligns to the session itself, but also the solution that we're going to be talking about here today. Do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. And why I like this quote is because this is essentially what process optimization, again, the brand name we give our in-platform process mining capability, allows you to do. It helps you x-ray your workflows and give all the stakeholders involved in the process visibility into where and how they can do better as it pertains to that workflow. And this is an interesting analogy. If we think about anything that we're designing, whether it be or planning, like an event like this one that we're at here today, or a business process, or even a park like the one you're looking at on the screen here, we've got a vision in our heads for what the optimal path should be, how things should play out, right? If we were designing a park like this, we would probably put in a sidewalk and pathways for people to walk on and ride bikes and rollerblade on. We may put a pond like they have in Central Park for people to take rowboats out on and kind of share some time with a loved one, let's say. Or maybe we'll put in a bunch of park benches for people to sit on and share a story or read a book. And then we'll set up these grassy areas like this for people to lay down a picnic blanket and have some lunch. Or like my wife and I used to do on Saturday afternoons, we'd go to Central Park and we'd find an area like this and play Scrabble. Right? We design for both efficiency and completeness to make sure that everyone has an optimal experience. Unfortunately, though, what we design is not always the reality that takes place. And now in this example here, this new reality might be the best experience for those people that wanted to get from point A to point B in the park. But it certainly isn't creating the optimal experience for my wife and I when we bring our Scrabble board the next Saturday that we go to the park. Same thing is true when it comes to our business processes, right? We design for both completeness and efficiency, but the reality of what actually happens inside of our business processes is often not exactly how we've planned it out from the very beginning. And unfortunately, getting that visibility into our business processes isn't as easy as seeing that new path or that alternate route that people are taking in the park. And very often when it comes to continual improvement opportunities and sort of initiatives inside of organizations, they tend to be very manual, time consuming and costly, right? We spend all this time running reports and just reading through all the lines of data inside of the reports. And then maybe we hold virtual and in-person workshops to get some input. And then sometimes we even bring in third-party consultants to help us better understand our process and ways to improve it. And then when we do all of this stuff here and we find an opportunity to improve a process, then we have to get internal alignment on the best path to move forward with that improvement. And the way that most organizations move today, at the speed that most of us move, by the time we complete all of this, the best path forward may have actually changed, right? Well, we're here to tell you that there's a better way, and that's where process optimization comes in. Again, in-platform process mining. And what we're able to do with that is in a couple of clicks, give all the relevant stakeholders visibility into where the opportunities to improve are within their given workflow that they're responsible for, so they can start getting better immediately or making plans to get better immediately. Now, if you think about it, how this ties back to just classical performance analytics that we've been doing today. We use performance analytics to answer questions like this. How many tickets did we work? Which type of tickets are we working on? How long did it take to close those tickets? And how did we perform against our targets? Are our cycle times improving, right? These are all questions that we're using performance analytics to help us answer today. And typically we kind of come in here and we set those up as key performance indicators and put them on a dashboard so we can get some visibility into, one, our targets as it pertains to those metrics, the momentum that we have towards those targets, right? And just get an understanding of kind of how we're doing over time. But invariably what happens when we do this, and we do a really good job when it comes to performance analytics, is people start to ask additional questions, especially when those trends start moving in the wrong direction. Because information tends to be one of the most addictive and contagious things that's out there. Once you give people a little bit, they always want to know more. And that's where process mining comes in, right? Because we can start answering some of those follow-up questions that typically come when we see a negative trend with an important KPI of ours. Process mining is going to give us the ability to start asking and answering questions like, where's our process stuck? Where are we wasting time? Where's our whole bunch of rework happening? Or where are there certain inefficiencies inside of our process that we can address? And we can start answering all these different questions very, very quickly when we start using process mining capabilities. So what process mining essentially helps us do, it helps us get to that why behind the KPI. It helps us take a given workflow, like in this case, incident, and visualize all the different hops that a ticket might be taking as it goes through it, and gives us relevant information around the details behind each one of those individual hops that the ticket is taking. And that's very helpful when it comes to identifying inefficiencies. The good news is we recognize that there's a relationship between those high-level KPIs that you're seeing inside of your performance analytics dashboards and the need and desire to get directly to the individual records and paths that things are taking underneath it. So we've built in an integration right from a performance analytics dashboard. You can get to the analytics hub, and right inside of that analytics hub now, in a single click, you can generate a visualized process map for the records that you're focused in on at a given time period to get you to that why behind the KPI. We've also started to blend together, because of the importance that KPIs play, putting the key KPIs for a given process right there on the summary insights dashboard of our process optimization analyst workbench. So for somebody that's analyzing the process in depth, right there on the workbench, we also allow you to set up given KPIs so that they keep in mind the target goals that we've set for ourselves, targets and goals that we've set for ourselves as it pertains to a given process. And we have an understanding of where we should be focusing our attentions in terms of improving that process. So you're probably saying to yourself, Dan, this is awesome, but how does it work? Well, here's how it works. Most records on the platform have an audit trail, kind of like Hansel and Gretel leaving little breadcrumbs. So any ticket, anything that's essentially extended from the task table usually has an audit trail associated to it. I think we have audit logging turned on for about 120 tables on the platform by default. And what we do is we have a mining engine on the platform now that's going to take the relevant audit data, do some heavy duty number crunching on top of that, and then spit out the results of that in a visualized process map. We've also set up, like we do everywhere else on the platform, we try to give our customers jump starts. So you may be familiar with kind of the content packs that you get with performance analytics that have out of the box KPIs. Well, we've done the same thing with process optimization. We've come up with some consistent inefficiencies that we're seeing inside of different workflows, and we call them findings, and we package those up into content packs that get applied to the mining results. So we start calling out things immediately for you on that summary and insights dashboard, like, hey, here's your multi-hop issues that you should be focusing in on. Hey, here's the incidents that are open and closed by the same person that you might be wanting to focus in on. So we've got a library of findings that we're continually adding to, and then you have the ability to create your own findings as well. We've also started to build integrations like you saw with other analytics and AI capabilities on the platform, things like that linkage with performance analytics we just talked about, or a linkage with continual improvement management. So as you're using the process map and you find an opportunity to improve, you can immediately create a continual improvement opportunity and link that map to that record. So we can track that improvement initiative over time and make sure that it gets done. Too often in our organizations, somebody sees something interesting in some data, they go tell a friend off the water cooler what they found and what they think we should do, and then nothing ever comes of that. This linkage with continual improvement helps us ensure that somebody pays attention to the opportunity that we've just discovered inside of the data. Now, when we think about optimizing a process, actually, I should pause. Thomas, are there any questions that have come up in the chat?
No, not yet.
All right, good. Perfect. So if we think about just what it takes to actually optimize any workflow that we're thinking about on the platform, really you can break it down into 4 phases: detect, analyze, improve, and monitor. I mean, you're probably already using capabilities on the platform that fall into that detect phase, things like performance analytics and maybe some notifications on the targets and thresholds that you've set for yourselves, or maybe you're using Spotlight to identify some outliers, or SLA notifications. These are all capabilities on the platform that help make you aware that something's not going according to plan. And then when you're aware and you've detected that opportunity, that's where process optimization comes in. It really dominates the analyze phase of optimizing a process. So you get things like that visualized process map. You get things like bottleneck analysis, root cause analysis, variation analysis, and an integration with automation discovery to help you really dig into the process and identify the inefficiency or the redundancies in your process and the things that you can improve upon. Which moves us up to the next stage, which is improve, which is what the ServiceNow platform is all about, right? So based on your findings, you may choose to improve an intake experience using the virtual agent, or you may choose to improve an assignment bottleneck with predictive intelligence to automate some of the triaging process. You may identify something that's happening in a very manual way in the process, and you may choose to use automation engine and our RPA capabilities to address that problem. Or maybe it's not an automation. It's simply teaching people to do something different using, let's say, coaching loops. I once heard somebody say, sometimes an improvement is just simply learning not to do something in a process. Maybe we have 2 levels of approvals, and by taking out one of them, we can save ourselves a week worth of throughput time. So there's lots of different ways to improve. And then the last stage or the last phase here is that monitor piece. Once you find the opportunity to improve and you act upon it, you want to make sure that you're communicating the impact that you're making through, let's say, performance analytics, to kind of set up a KPI to say, based on what we did, I want to start tracking and trending the difference or the improvement that we're making based on this change. I'm always surprised how few customers actually close that loop in terms of their improvement initiatives. And this is something that we think is a tremendous advantage that we provide our customers, is the fact that you can do closed loop process improvement on the ServiceNow platform, because we have pieces that help you in each of these phases: detect, analyze, improve, and monitor. If we just look at one high-level example, most workflows have some sort of analysis around throughput time that you're going to do, or you're looking to improve throughput time, speed. And we could say, let's say in the detect phase, we may see a trend in performance analytics of our throughput time increasing over time. Then right from there, in a single click, we can drill and create a process map for the data behind that, the spike that's there. And maybe we identify that there's assignment group changes that are leading to a 4-month delay. Oh, you know what? The improvement initiative we would create might focus around using predictive intelligence to auto-classify and categorize those assignments to speed that or to eliminate some of that assignment group changes or bounces back and forth. And then once we do that, we'd want to create a KPI potentially focused on the percent of incidents resolved on the first assigned group or first call resolution rate, because that would be a good metric to indicate that we're getting better based on the improvement change that we made. And there's so many common findings and optimization opportunities across the different workflows on the platform that process optimization helps us look at. So things like channel performance or ping pong analysis or vendor comparison, or looking for the most inefficient transitions that are out there. There's all of these things that we can start using Process Mining to help us get answers to and improve upon in these different areas. And these are the things that we've packaged up into those findings content packs. So for example, the ITSM process optimization content pack comes with 4 prepackaged continual improvement initiatives. It comes with 5 process model definitions for incident. There's 2 for incident, 1 for state and assignment group, problem, change, request. And then there's 13 finding definitions. And those finding definitions, again, are those common inefficiencies that we see. And of course, you have the ability to create your own models. You can tweak the ones that we give you in the content pack, just like everything else on the platform. Ultimately, when it comes to process optimization, it's about improving in these 3 areas. 1, it's going to help you identify opportunities to increase the speed in which work gets done inside of the organization. It's going to help us identify automation opportunities to remove potential manual steps and increase the productivity in the organization. And the other thing that it does is it gives us visibility into the variability inside of our processes and where we're not conforming to our designed plan. And that helps us identify opportunities to get more conformance and remove risk inside of the organization. So these are the 3 areas where we see the biggest impact from process optimization. And as I go through the demo, you're going to see how that all plays out. All right, Thomas, before I get to the demonstration, I know I just dropped a lot of knowledge on folks, but I'll pause there, see if there's any questions, comments, thoughts about any of the stuff that we've covered so far.
Yeah, we did have one question come in, and I kind of gave some ServiceNow docs to it, but maybe you might want to speak more to it. It says, is this available with all ITSM SKUs?
It's not available today with all ITSM SKUs, sorry. Today it's bundled as part of the ITSM Enterprise offering. But I would say on that one to contact your account team and if this is something you think will add value, and we're always willing to see if we can find a way to work with customers there.
Okay, great. And then another one actually just came in, and you may actually talk about this during the demonstration, but it says, how can we detect a bad process if historically it has never been good and you wouldn't find a spike on throughput time?
That's a fantastic question. And it's actually one of the things you'll see in the demonstration. There is that detect, analyze, improve, monitor flow that's there. But that's where I think sometimes, you're just going to start with process mining in the analyze phase. And as you'll see in the demonstration, it's going to shine a light on opportunities to improve and things that you would never have even started. Just the insights and opportunities just jump right off the page when you visualize your data in this way. It's one of the things that I've found consistently when working with customers is when they see the truth behind their process, it's sometimes shocking. For those of you that are familiar with the movie A Few Good Men, right? When Tom Cruise says, I want the truth. And then Jack Nicholson, you can't handle the truth. There's some people that think they want the truth behind their processes, and some people just can't handle it when they see it. But then they're always interested in kind of what we're showing them and how to improve it.
Great, thanks.
Sure. Anything else that's come in there?
That's it.
All right, let's jump on over here to a demonstration. I'll probably have to log into my instance again. And I will be showing this in San Diego for those that are interested in that, but it is available in Rome as well and Quebec. So let's come here, and I'm going to start. Actually, I'll just show you kind of how we get here real quick from a dashboard. I'll say extended session. Hopefully that extended. And so I could be on a dashboard like this, and I could be looking at things like my backlog, my MTTR, my first call resolution rate, and perhaps then I see a spike in resolution time or any one of these. Right from here, I would potentially drill in to my analytics hub, and then I could use my go to process optimization button right there on the upper right to get me to this map for just that data, and it will take me to the workspace. So it's as easy as that one click to get here and start mining that data behind anything that you're seeing on a dashboard like that. Now, for purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to want to use as much data as I possibly had. So I'm going to come back to a larger set, not just that subset, but I wanted you to see kind of what that transition might look like in a single click from PA to get to the Y behind the KPI. I'm going to open up this project that I've created for myself, incident process optimization, and just walk you through some of the things that are on this workbench. As we mentioned earlier, I'm going to land right here on a summary insights page. I'm going to get some high-level information around the data that I mined. And this screen is going to give me visibility into my KPIs that I've set up that are important to this process. And obviously with the incident process, things like average resolution time and percentage of incidents resolved in the first assignment group, which is the leading indicator for resolution time, are key metrics to me. And then as I move down the screen, we start getting to those improvement opportunities. And these are those finding cards that I was mentioning that come within those content packs, that based on the data that I chose to mine, it kind of buckets it into opportunities in the area of, let's say, performance, conformance, and quality. So we've got things like, hey, culture of bad cleanup, records that take longer than 7 days to go from resolved to closed. Now, you may say our process works a little bit differently. Then you would simply come in here and adjust this finding card to align to the way your process works. We have things like slow resolution time, so incidents that took more than 12 hours between work in progress and resolved, or multi-hop issues where incidents are going through 2 or more hops. And you can see right here on the card that of the 22,000 records that I mined, 6% of them fall into this multi-hop issue category. Their average time impact is 6 days. That's what's being caused here. And then the total impact time for these tickets that went through this multi-hop, there's 20 years worth of, I like to say, productivity loss that's captured in these things that are in this multi-hop. And I could jump right to the map or do some root cause analysis or cluster right from this card. You're going to see that in a few seconds. Then as I move down the screen, I get visibility into what we call variation analysis. So this is showing me all of the individual routes that tickets had taken based on this mining. So we've got 3,200 different routes that these incidents that we mined took. This is showing us the highlights, but I could start doing things like, hey, let me look at the ones that have taken the most steps. That's pretty involved there. Or maybe I want to come in here and look at the ones that have the longest average duration and see what that route looks like here. And I can drill right from here to the map and start analyzing just this subset of data if I wanted to do that. And then as I move down the screen, I get even more visibility here with something we call bottleneck analysis. So what this is looking at is each of the transitions that an individual record would take. So I want to focus in on just the ones that went from resolved to closed, or the ones that went from assigned to in progress, or assigned to resolved, right? I just want to focus in on a certain hop, and the tickets that went through that particular hop, I can do that as well. And we'll see how this plays out in the demonstration as well. So that's right there on the summary and insights page. And it's really what we're trying to do is surface potential improvement opportunities right there without even digging into the map itself. But of course, we always want to get to the map. And this is, I find with customers, one of the most exciting things is when they first see their process visualized on this map, things just immediately start jumping off the page to them like, whoa, what's going on there? I'm just going to walk you through how this map works so you can get a sense of some of the flexibility you have when you want to start digging in and analyzing your process. First thing that we'll look at here is I'll just look at some basic model statistics. So right now we've got 2,200 or 22,000 records that we're looking at. As I mentioned earlier, those 22,000 records have taken 3,200 individual paths to get to closure. Their average duration is 3 weeks. Their average standard deviation, or the standard deviation, sorry, is 3 months, which means there's a lot of variability in this process, lots of room for improvement. And the median duration is 1 week. So I've got my basic stats about the workflow. And you may be saying to yourself, well, Dan, it says that there's 3,200 individual routes, but if I look at that map, I don't see 3,200 individual routes. And that's because what we do by default is we narrow it down to the top 20% in terms of routes that are most taken to kind of eliminate a lot of the noise. Because if I were to kind of expand this out to, let's say, look at 80% of those routes, it's going to get really messy, really, really fast. And this is one of the biggest benefits, I think, to process mining is, very often in our organizations, you hear like a one-off bad experience, or somebody had a bad experience with this workflow or this process, and kind of we react to that one-off type of thing. What process mining really helps us do is focus in on the areas in which we could make the biggest impact from an inefficiency and improving upon an inefficiency inside of our workflow. So obviously that variability in the routes is one of those areas where somebody that's on the risk side of the house is going to get very, very concerned, because there's all these little one-off paths that things can be taking that could potentially cause a problem. So showing that's important, and getting a handle on that is important, but focusing in on kind of improvement opportunities focusing in on the high volume inefficiencies is where you're going to see some of the biggest impact from an improvement perspective. The other thing I always like to do here is right now we're looking at the volume. I'll just make this a little bit bigger. We're looking at the volume of tickets through each of the individual hops. So we can see that 8,000 of them kind of came in here to assigned, and then from assigned, 3,000 went to in progress, and kind of moved through these pieces. I also like to always add in a second metric like average duration, so we can start looking at the velocity as well. So how things are moving through in volume wise, but also the velocity it's taking to get from one place to another. And the first thing I always call out to customers when they're looking at a map for the first time and kind of saying, where should I be focusing my attention? I typically like to look at anywhere I see a line going back up the hill here, or going back up. So in this case here, where it's going from awaiting caller info back to in progress, I like to call that one out. And I like that. It's an easy way to see kind of where an inefficiency potentially is. I usually compare these maps. They look like ski trails to me. I mean, when I used to ski, anytime I had to go back up the mountain for a reason, that was usually a bad experience. And something had usually went wrong if I had to go back up the mountain. Same thing in our processes in many cases, right? So I can focus in on just these 2,400 tickets that are going from awaiting caller info to in progress and look at those. And I can see for that hop, I've got 2,400 total occurrences, 1,800 unique occurrences. That means that there's at least 500 or 600 that have gone back and forth between this path more than once. And one of them's even went back and forth in that path 6 times. And these tickets that are moving through this route, just this piece, the total duration of the time here is 11 years. It's 11 years of productivity that we can somehow reclaim potentially by finding why this inefficiency is occurring. All right, so I can do some things here on this card. I can view the records. I can view root cause analysis. I'll view clusters. We can do that in a minute. But I wanted to show another way that we could look at this, and that's with our bottleneck analysis. So I could come in here, and again, bottleneck analysis shows me the individual hops that each of these things are taking. And if I wanted to focus in on just the ones that we were looking at there, in progress to awaiting caller info, and then back awaiting caller info to in progress, if I look at that loop that's going on there, there's 22 years of total productivity loss. So let's focus in on just those that are kind of moving through that phase. So I can click on this and just focus in on awaiting caller info, but I can also use this transition filter to do that. So I want to show you how this works. I can set up and isolate the data that I'm looking at in this map based on a certain path or transition. In this case, we're just going to be using one thing. I want to say, show me all of the tickets that went through the node of awaiting caller info. But if I wanted to say, if I awaiting caller info to in progress and back to awaiting caller info, I could build out a more advanced filter criteria or transition criteria here. This is useful for analyzing certain hypotheses that you have around kind of ping pong effects between groups. You can do that here or set that up here. And then I'm going to hit apply. And this is now going to change the map and narrow it down to just the records that are going through that awaiting caller info node. And I can see the stats for that piece here have changed. So now I'm looking at, there's 1,800 routes. There's about 30% or 33% of my tickets are going through that right now. And I can look at the standard deviation and the average duration. The other piece now on the left-hand side that I can use to help me analyze this is my breakdowns. So I can start looking at these records by assignment group. I can start looking at them by category. A very popular type of analysis is channel analysis, where we'd be looking at here of these tickets that are going through awaiting caller info. I can see that the largest volume is coming in via self-service, right? So that would make sense. Self-service typically generates some additional questions, or the intake, the vehicle might not be optimized and we might be not getting all the information that we need. And I can see that the average duration of these self-service tickets is about 1 week. But then the other one that jumps out at me here is email, right? And why email jumps out at me is because, again, you would expect a very unstructured way to intake channel, right? Where there'd be probably some additional questions the agent would need to ask about or get information from the user. But I can see that these ones that are coming in via email, they're taking a full week longer to resolve than the self-service one. So that's an area that I want to focus in on. So I can isolate the email channel and I can just apply that filter. And again, now my map is going to adjust and it's going to show me, hey, here's the ones that are going through awaiting caller info that came in via the email channel. And then I can do some additional analysis. Again, in the platform, I can always get to the records if I have the rights to do that. I can view root cause analysis. And what this does is it kind of runs some machine learning that shows me the leading influencers in specific areas. And I can see that of these tickets that came in via email that are going back to awaiting user info at some point, about 21% of them are categorized as employee portals. So that's an area of interest to me, and I can narrow it down even further. And then right from here, I can view clustering analysis. And for those of you that are not familiar with clustering, what clustering allows us to do is look at the unstructured data inside of our tickets and start identifying some trends and patterns in, let's say, the short descriptions and the descriptions. So right from here, I can see that these are my biggest clusters, and I can see things like the tickets are all about email and support and these types of things. And I can get to those records. And what will immediately jump out here is that I've got a lot of tickets that kind of are taking a very inefficient path, that 2 weeks of time for just people that want to change their email address as part of their profile. And that to me sounds like something that I could create a virtual agent conversation to allow somebody to do, or create a catalog item to allow somebody to do on their own in a self-service fashion. And maybe we even have a catalog item for that already. We just need to market it a little bit better. In either case, this is an opportunity to improve from an organizational perspective, that we can do something to make this a little bit better and remove some of that inefficiency and some of that 22 years worth of wasted time that for these tickets that are moving through this hop here. Now, once I find something like that, I can start doing some additional things. One is I can share this finding with somebody else and say, hey, take a look at this map here. I can also then start collaborating with other people and add a note that says, hey, at Mike, I think I have a Mike, take a look at this, and I can attach this view of it. I can then start comparing this with other models that I may have. Maybe I want to do a vendor comparison in some cases, outside of the example that I just used, but maybe I want to say, okay, vendor A versus vendor B. I want to look at all those tickets that are being handled one way or the other. I can do a comparison and get some different statistics there if I want to. And then lastly, this tie-in with continual improvement initiatives. Right? So right from here, I can link this to an existing continual improvement initiative or create a brand new continual improvement initiative based on the findings that I've come up with as I've done my analysis here. That way we have a record to assign people to align to kind of make sure that the improvement that we've found or the improvement opportunity gets worked in some way, shape, or form. Now, last thing I want to show you on this is just this tie-in with automation opportunities. So if you're not familiar with automation discovery, it helps us identify automation opportunities using some machine learning techniques. And We've built this into the analyst workbench here, or the process optimization analyst workbench, so that when people run a mine, we automatically run an automation discovery against that subset of data that you just mined to help maybe surface some other automation opportunities based on the data that you've mined here. So we can start seeing things like, hey, we've identified some hardware troubleshooting issues here. Here's some basic statistics about this. If we had a virtual agent conversation out of the box, you'd have the ability to kind of link to that right from here and take some action on it. Pause there, Thomas. As I went through that, did any questions come in?
Yeah, we have a few questions that have come in.
Sure.
And I'll just go just from the top to the bottom here. So first one is, so if I have ITSM Pro and I'm on Roam, this is available. Is it enabled via plugin?
Perfect. So that's a good question. So as I mentioned earlier today, and again, I would contact your account rep about this. It's available in ITSM Enterprise, but any customer has the ability to turn this on in their subprod instance and run process optimization against a subset of 4,000 records for a given process. So if you're on Roam, you should be able to go in, turn on the plugin, and run this against a subset of your data to kind of get a feel for how it works. And we've got some information in a knowledge article, in an article on the community that we can share with the group after. I'm going to share some links to kind of the process optimization community page, the FAQ, and there's some additional information on kind of how to go about turning on which plugin and get started.
Okay, great. Is there a way to apply this process from a virtual agent perspective, focusing on the user journey and interactions, chatbot, or may exist? Is there one that exists out of the box?
No, not today. So on the kind of that user journey from a conversation perspective, but you do have the ability, you could mine interaction records and link those interaction records to kind of let's say, incidents that were created from those. So you can build that linkage between tables into a map, so you can start seeing that. And that's one of those things. I did not use the safe harbor slide, but safe harbor slide in play. In Tokyo, we're enhancing that, what we call multi-dimensional modeling, but that ability to build models that go across different tables and workflows. So you can kind of see let's say, we'll use HR onboarding as an example, right? An HR onboarding case is going to have a lot of subtasks that may touch a number of different processes. You'd be able to visualize that in a single map here.
Okay, great. I should have had that safe harbor, so I apologize as well. Next, is it possible to use process optimization for data mining without having KPIs established already? Our KPIs is still very much a work in progress in trying to determine if this could be used to gain insight in establishing those baselines.
That's actually a fantastic question, and I'm glad you asked it because it reminded me that I wanted to show you how this actually works from here as well. So the answer at a high level is yes, right? You want to have those KPIs, obviously, because that's going to be part of that detect and that monitor phase if we look at the bookends of this process. But if you wanted to use process mining, you can start using it today without your KPIs. And I wanted you to get, I think it's really important for you to get a sense of like how easy this is to do. Because typically when people think about process mining, there's a lift in their heads if they've went through a project with let's say another tool, process mining tool. There's a lot of effort that goes into the data preparation for running a process mining exercise. And it's not the case. It's one of the advantages that we have as an in-platform solution. We understand our data, and we've kind of eliminated any of the data prep that you need to do. It really is as easy as this. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say PA Academy, process mining. And I'm going to come in here. You could set up a short description, a goal that might be aligned to this. You might want to use a template. And I'm simply going to come in here and I'm going to pick my incident table that I want to mine against. Then what you would do is you would apply some filter criteria. Typically, we want to apply this to, let's say, closed records. And what we say for customers, this is a question that typically comes up, is like, what's the right amount of data to use? Is there any minimum number of records that I need to use? And the answer to that question is no. What you want to use is you want to apply this to relevant data for whatever process you're thinking about. For a lot of customers, relevant data when it comes to incidents is, let's just say, closed on the last 30 days, right? I think we would do something like this. Let's say it closed in the last month, right? Now, for my purposes, my demo data that I have here, I'm just going to leave it like this and hit preview so I can do it. But you would set up a criteria that makes sense. And in this case, I have about 30,000 incidents that match this. And then I'm going to save this. And the only other thing that I have to do is I need to create this activity definition. And what an activity definition is essentially, what do I want to start visualizing from a transition perspective on the map, right? So by default, this is going to, the one that most people like to start with is state. And I'll add this and I'll submit this. You can put assignment group in here. You can put any number of different things inside of here, and you can look at all of those different hops on the map. And then you can set up your breakdowns if you want to, but essentially this is all I need to do. And then in a single click, I can come in here and I can generate my model. And this is going to take, depending on the data, a couple of minutes. We'll see how fast this goes in this session, but that's how easy it is to create and create that process map that you saw, or visualize your data and start doing the analysis that I was doing there. You don't need to have your KPIs set up. I think it's an important piece for the entire optimization process, but you don't need them for sure. You can do exactly what I just did and get going like that. It's probably a long-winded answer, but I did want to show this, how easy it is to set it up, because it is kind of this something that's really important to our solution on the platform.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's awesome showing that. And along those same lines, let's see, would the incident process optimization analysis work? Let's say if the org has defined some non-out-of-the-box incident states?
Yeah, so what you just saw me go through there, you probably noticed when I went to like pick state, that was just a list reading off the table. So if you've got custom fields or custom elements, different states that you've set up that are unique to your organization, we're just going to pick those up. You're not going to have to do anything special. From a process optimization standpoint, we're going to when you filled out this form, like I just filled out here, your custom fields are going to show up in the drop-down lists, and your custom elements are going to show up in the analysis.
Okay, great. And then does ITSM Enterprise include licensing to automation discovery as well?
Yeah, that would be covered underneath. I should preface this with, I'm not on the sales side, but I believe that is covered underneath your pro entitlement, because it's a machine learning based or predictive intelligence based solution. If there's a moderator on the call that knows differently than me, please chime in.
Adam, that sounds like you may have the right answer. And we have a couple more that are in, but it looks like Josh Cooper actually joined, so he's answering some questions by typing them. So he may be, it looks like the two questions are related, so he may be on top of those. So he's going to answer that one. So if you want to continue, you're good. We've got all questions up to date at this point.
Perfect. So I mean, I think it was, for those of you that have witnessed that, in less than a couple of minutes, we set up a project, a process optimization project, mined some data, and got ourselves to a visualized map. It's that easy to set this up and get going. So I think, again, power that comes with using an in-platform process mining solution is the ease it is to kind of set it up and start seeing the insights inside of your workflows. All right, now I'm going to transition back. I do want to leave you. I mentioned that we have some resources. So a couple of things that I wanted to call out that are available to you to follow up after this session. One is that we do have a specific community forum for process optimization. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't come up in that cool list on the left-hand side of the screen when you click on forums. So you actually have to search specifically for process optimization to find the forum itself, but it's there. So if you've got additional questions that come up after today, if you're out there and you turned on process mining on your subprod and you're playing around and you've got a question, don't hesitate. Come here to the forum, post it. I monitor it every day, and other people on the team monitor it every day, and we'll get that question answered. Second thing, in the upper right there is an on-demand training. It's about 60 to 90 minutes called Process Optimization Essentials. That's out there on the Now Learning site. So this, if you're going to be turning it on, I highly recommend that you walk through Process Optimization Essentials, get a lay of the land. It'll give you everything that you need to know to get started. We do have FAQ article out there on that community site or forum that we talked about earlier. So a lot of the questions that came up today, they're answered on that site, in addition to other questions that you may have. Check there. Also, this FAQ has got links to a lot of other relevant material that may interest you as well. One of the links that's there is a link to, well, you just sat through this, so you probably don't need it, but if you wanted to show other people what you just saw here today, there is a link to a recorded overview presentation and demonstration out there as well. Other thing, and I noticed, Thomas, as we were going through this, I'm going to need to get this added to your intro, is that we are starting our own process optimization academy that you can register for on that community forum that's out there. The first session is targeted for July 15th, and we'll be running them every 2 weeks as well. So the first session is going to be focusing on kind of turning on process optimization and creating your first model. So that's going to be July 15th, and then we'll have sessions every 2 weeks after that.
I will get that added, Dan.
Yeah, this is the what to do next. I already covered this, but I would say if you're saying to yourself, what do I do next? Here's what you do next. You go out, you take that process optimizations essentials course on Now Learnings, and then you go into your subprod, you activate the plugins, process optimization and the ITSM process optimization content pack, and you get mining. We started with a quote. I like to end with a quote, and this one's from Winston Churchill. To improve is to change, to be perfect is to change more often. And why I'll leave you with this one is I think, and I hope, and actually I know, what you witnessed today is that we're going to be able to provide you with process optimization, significant efficiency gains in terms of being able to see where there are opportunities within your workflows to improve. And you're going to be able to find those opportunities in such a more efficient way now that you'll be able to get better more often, which is what we're trying to do here. That's what I plan to cover today. Thomas, if there's any other questions, or if we want to open up the floor to questions, I've exhausted the materials that I've brought to the table.
Dan, this was just really incredible, and I know that people would get a whole lot out of this, and to have really great questions is a good thing. What I would like to do, and this is completely voluntary of Dan Kane and Adam and even Josh, but I think that you've covered everything greatly, and I don't think that there needs to be any talking over you of what you've done. But I know that quite often different thoughts come in, especially of ways to use something like this and things like that. So Dan or Adam or Josh, if there's anything that you'd like to add as other questions may come in, please feel free. I know Adam always has a very high level way of thinking of things. So I have to wonder if there's things he was thinking about during the presentation.
That's awesome.
It is. I mean, Adam, you know this. It's becoming everyone's favorite. Process optimization is everyone's favorite now.
Everybody loves it.
Yes, everybody loves it. Everyone's favorite.
That's my deep thought.
Nice. I love it. I mean, it's some of the best deep thoughts are awesome. I mean, it says everything. So I am good with that.
I'll say this is that with PA, we could do some of this stuff, but it's really manual. And I think one of the values we get from ServiceNow is that you don't have to think about everything. It's not just a tool that lets you visualize data, but that it allows us, that we have people here thinking about how do we solve our problems, right? We understand it's not just about all of our analytics and intelligence. It's not just about data, but it's about tasks and CIs and cases. It's stuff we all do. So when we see a problem that all of us have, we're able to build a solution that solves it. It doesn't solve every problem out there. It solves the problems we have, which are the ones we care about. So it's really important when you're trying to solve a new problem, you're trying to introduce a new process, that you always look at what ServiceNow has and what the platform has to offer, what the other solutions that are out there. Because what you're going to find is you can invest, months and months of time and lots of labor and customization and build it. You often can do that. The platform's incredibly flexible unless you build those things. But why would you do that if you can just install a plugin, right? Get an app store. Some of the stuff has additional costs, but the cost that you're going to incur to develop it and maintain it is way out there. And the team that Dan's team and the process optimization guys, incredibly smart, have been focused on this for years now, on how to make this work for you and optimize it. And as Dan showed, you don't have to figure it all out. You just go, I want this on this table, state, ready to go.
Yeah.
And let us do that thinking for you.
Adam, you just reminded me. I think the people on this call would appreciate it for sure. Some of those questions that it answers, just out of the box for you. Back in the day, and you can still do it today, I guess, but you would have to set up metric definitions, right? And capture that data in metric definitions, and then report on top of those metric definitions and build KPIs on top of the metric definitions to get some of that information around in between the hops, or kind of how long something is sitting in a certain state, which is it's doable, but it's certainly not the easiest thing to do and requires maintenance and things like that. I was showing this to somebody the other day, and I had to set up a whole bunch of metric definitions to answer that question. I was like, yeah, look at that. We just did it in 2 clicks.
And it came from
right? This is like to Adam's point, a lot of this just feels like PA, with some intelligence thrown in, and about 6 hours with a whiteboard, right? To where you're taking those PA measurements and you're putting it all together to understand the process. It's just doing the understanding for you and helping you visualize it.
Adam, you had something else you want to add?
Well, I was going to say, this didn't come out of a vacuum. This was a very organic solution from us that came from some people who worked on PA. And as Dan said, you can do it. I think we have labs that walk you through how to set up all those metrics. And it was us sitting around going, it shouldn't be this hard. It is hard. It took us a while to develop it. There's a lot of, there's a lot behind it, but it shouldn't be that hard to get this answer. And that driving factor, because again, we're looking at because we're talking to you, you're talking to us, you're telling us your use cases. That's why these sessions are so important. By you saying, I'm trying to do this, it makes sure that we understand, what are you trying to do? And then how can we help you do that, right? And whether it's get it out by, we'll just use this formula in PA, do this in a report, or, hey, we'll build a new application that is purpose built to help you solve your problems quickly, efficiently, give you the information that you need. That feedback and these conversations are so key for that. And process optimization is one of those things that just said, this is the answer we're trying to get. It's not about the tool. It's about the outcome we're trying to achieve. Even if we had to build a new application to make that happen, that's what we needed to make.
You just reminded me again, Adam. So speaking of use cases, in the process optimization community forum, there is an article that details the 26 to 30 common use cases and findings that we've come up with so far. So I recommend people go and check those out, because it's posted there. But also, if you've got scenarios and use cases in your head that you're interested to understand whether process optimization would help you identify inefficiencies, rework, redundancies, opportunities to improve, go there, post a question there. We're constantly looking for feedback on use and input on more use cases. So post it there, and we can answer it for you and kind of show you how to do it, or maybe we set up a session where we show it. As I mentioned, we're going to be kicking off that Process Optimization Academy. And I imagine over time, some of those sessions are just going to be dedicated to how would we create this finding card specific for this use case, or how would I use the map to identify that this is happening? So if you've got use cases in your mind and you don't want to share them here today, please go to the community and share them there.
Great. And we did have another one come in that Josh kind of hit on, but I think he had some questions for you in it. But so HR case management, is this available? Safe Harbor, he was talking about it maybe
Yes.
Tokyo. So
yeah, great question. So yes, our goal, again, Safe Harbor, our goal from a ServiceNow perspective is to make this available for all workflows on the ServiceNow platform, right? All workflows on the ServiceNow platform. Today, it's ITSM and CSM in the San Diego release. In Tokyo, we're expanding it to HR, and then to create a workflow so you can apply process optimization. And then over time, you're going to start to see it become available for additional workflows on the platform. So HR is coming in Tokyo, and that's the plan. And so we'll be able to do that. And again, Safe Harbor, but one of the key capabilities, the enhancements from a Tokyo perspective, is this ability to do multi-process mining, and that's key for the HR lifecycle event type use case, where you can start saying, okay, here's the parent case, and then I want to start seeing how it branches off into other tasks and activities to complete that lifecycle event. So that's certainly coming in Tokyo.
Awesome. Well, I think we've answered all of them. And let me say, Dan, thank you very much for this. This is great information, and it's going to be really great to have this out in the community. And so people can refer back to it, and a great resource for us to actually direct people to when questions do come in, but also direct them over to your new academies that you'll be starting soon. So thank you again, and always great to hear you speak and do presentations. So what a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to working with everyone when it comes to this new exciting area. Everyone's favorite, process optimization.
Awesome. Thank you. So with that, I'll go ahead and close out so we can get done with everything. So let me get over here. So as usual, just some quick slides. Use the community as much as you possibly can. There's great information like this that'll be shared out a little bit later on today, and also plenty of questions that have been asked and answered by not only ServiceNow, but also customers that have really great knowledge around different things. So if you had a question in this that we didn't get to, or you didn't feel like asking that question, please feel free to go to the community and ask that question. And then, of course, get to all the different links of the other things that we have available there. Again, like I said, this will be out later on today, and also be out on our YouTube channels as well. So look for that. And the question was asked, will the slide deck be there? The slide deck will be there. It'll be saved as a PDF, and it'll be attached to the community event. So you'll be able to look at that. But again, the recording will be there for you to access as well. Make sure that you're using Now Learning. There's some really great training that is there, not only for performance analytics and reporting and things of that nature, but also, as Dan said, for process optimization, the essentials. So go out there and take advantage of all of that. There are the PA Advanced is now on demand. So go and check that out as well. It doesn't have to be an instructor-led. And then also here are some other great Academy sessions. And on the next one, the Process Optimization Academy will be added to this slide for Dan. But go out and check these out as well. Some really great other academies that can give you a lot of great information into many of the great tools that are inside of the platform. And then 2 weeks from now, we're going to talk about ACL assessment for reports. So please come back in 2 weeks if you have some curiosity around that. And if you don't, and you're just curious what that is, then come back in 2 weeks and check that out as well. Thank you, as usual, for joining and giving us the lunchtime for some of you, the breakfast for others, and perhaps the dinner for others as well. But thank you for coming. And if nobody else has anything, then thank you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.